Welcome to our business strategy video presentation on IKEA in India. IKEA was founded in Sweden in 1943 by Ingvar Kamprad, then only 17 years old. From humble beginnings as a small-scale furniture manufacturer which sold its products through mail order, it has grown to become one of the world's largest furniture retailers, with 400 stores, 163,000 employees, and its presence felt in 44 countries, either through retail outlets, manufacturing or distribution centres. It has become one of the world's most well-known brands and one of the most consistently successful, having experienced an increase in revenue in each successive year of the 21st century. In the 2015-16 financial year, 783 million customers visited IKEA stores, and a profit of 4.2 billion euros was recorded. Its trademark flat-pack DIY approach to selling its furniture gives it a distinct competitive advantage by allowing it to cut costs and also giving it a point of differentiation over its rivals. By 2008, IKEA had become the biggest furniture retailer in the world. It truly was and is a global company, but there was one frontier it had not conquered: India. The second largest country in the world, with a population of more than 1 billion, India held massive potential for increased sales in IKEA, and was a largely untapped market in terms of international competitors in the industry. However, there were many barriers for IKEA to start selling in India. For example, they had to wait until the Indian government allowed 100% foreign direct investment in single brand retail. Even then, IKEA still had to source 30% of its goods from local small and medium-sized manufacturers. To create further issues, around 90% of India's furniture production comes from local traditional small-scale merchants, which are quite often favoured over even local big brand retailers. In this presentation, we will discuss whether IKEA's venture into India was successful and worth the time, effort and money invested. Based on IKEA's history of more than 60 years of sustained international success, it will come as no surprise if IKEA not only survived in India, but thrived. Rukshan will now present the first question.
The first question asks whether IKEA has a sustainable source of competitive advantage in India. Let's begin with defining what competitive advantage is. It refers to the factors that allow a company to produce goods and services at a lower cost or build superior customer value, which rival firms find difficult to copy. Today, this concept of competitive advantage has become so important that it is usually the differential factor as to whether a firm would survive in the long run or not. It has been found out that IKEA does not have any direct competitors due to the wide variety of products they sell, but any cheap, large-scale furniture manufacturer is considered their rivals. Examples in India include Godrej Interior, Zuari, Damro, etc. Now let us look at the sources of competitive advantage for IKEA in India. First and foremost, do-it-yourself method. At first, Indian customers were not satisfied with this method, but it played into IKEA's favor once they established themselves in the Indian market. This was mainly because IKEA was able to provide high quality furniture at a lower price, since they did not have to incur any extra costs for labor and packaging and assembling various parts. The IKEA management also believed that customers would get a sense of satisfaction once they finished assembling their own unique products. Second factor, design of their furniture. IKEA did not have to spend much money when entering new markets, since they did not have to differentiate their products much. This is stated in the case as well, since all their items blend well together. If IKEA did not have this feature, they would have found it very difficult to compete in the Indian market, where the living room definition tends to vary drastically with other countries. Third factor, competitive advantage need not necessarily be obtained by reducing costs and charging lower prices. This could be seen in IKEA as well. Examples include IKEA's eco-friendly furniture and the strong supply chain they had already established in India helped them convince the Indian government to allow them to set up business operations locally. However, some of IKEA's other world rivals are still struggling to enter the Indian furniture market, which tends to be highly saturated. Finally, IKEA has also gained a competitive advantage by establishing restaurants and cafes at each of their stores. This practice is seen in most IKEA stores in India as well. The idea sprang up because market studies showed that most customers came to shop for a short period of time and then left the store once they became hungry and tired, and on most occasions never returned. On the other hand, even though IKEA's rivals are still trying to imitate this idea, IKEA exceeds customer expectations and value by providing food which resembles the originality of the firm, Swedish food, and by preparing Indian delicacies which suit the local palate. In summary, since IKEA entered the Indian market in 2013, they have been able to enjoy a sustainable source of competitive advantage amidst various political, bureaucratic barriers and competition from cheap, large-scale custom-built furniture manufacturers. Now, the second question will be presented by my teammate Sherry.
To Thompson, Pittruff, Gamble, and Strickland, 5 business levels can be chosen from to position a firm, which are low cost, differentiation, focus low cost, focus differentiation, and best cost provider. A firm must decide whether it tends to perform activities differently, that is low cost, or to perform different activities, that is differentiation, to position itself differently from its competitors and gain a competitive advantage. Regarding to the case study, only low cost is offered and there's no or little differentiation is used to deliver value. Moreover, IKEA has a broad target market, such as the family, the middle class in India, the young generations. Therefore, we assume that IKEA is using a low-cost provider strategy. Firstly, since the founding of IKEA, it has played on the price sensitivity of the customer and low-cost furniture. A price tag is designed first, and then a product is designed to suit the price. Product developers, designers, and suppliers all work together to ensure every process creates low prices. IKEA currently has 48 suppliers with about 45,000 direct employees and about 400,000 people in the extended supply chain in India. 70 suppliers and 1,450 suppliers in local area ensures low prices starts on the factory floor. Moreover, the location is set in a suburb in India, which cut off real estate cost. Differentiation is the second consideration. Access to global design, technologies, and skill increases the competitiveness of IKEA. Also, IKEA is still pursuing home improvement and is dedicating in providing experience, which attracts people to travel extra to buy IKEA products. However, it is far from enough to differentiate it from its competitors. At last, the target market of IKEA in India is broad. As IKEA is dedicating in home improvement, family is definitely one of its target market in India. Also, the analysts suggest that IKEA is aiming for the country's growing young population, who move house frequently and are more likely to snap up its cheap and functional furniture. Moreover, IKEA is looking for store locations to cater to the real middle class in India. In summary, however, relying on an advantage in cost may not be sustainable, as competitors may easily copy and overcome it through differentiation. And then Ray will talk about question 3.
Author developed an economic model, popularly known as diamond model, which explains why particular industries become competitive in particular locations. Referred to the Porter diamond, there are 5 factors are considered for the analysis of competitiveness. Today, we will focus on 3 of them, which are the most relatable when we analyze the market for the IKEA in India. Factors of production are often described in very broad terms such as land, labor, and capital, which are too general to debate on competitive advantage in strategically distinct industries. According to the research, 70% of Indian population is under age 35, which implies that the growth of economy will be very healthy because young population are the productive population group. According to the United Nations and Goldman Sachs Bank's research report predict that India's population is rising up, and now India is the second largest population of the world. It implies that labor resources is increasing, and the cost of effectiveness is possible seen from working population. India owns numerous of remarkable strengths in the more complex drivers of competitiveness. This reversed pattern of development is characteristics of India. Moreover, India also owns a vast household market that allows for economies of scale and attract more investors. It can rely on a maturity and a sophisticated financial market that can allocate financial resources to good use, and it owns reasonably sophisticated and innovative business. The second factor is demand condition. It's another important determinant of national competitiveness. Basically, demand condition is any industries is depending on size of home demand size, pattern of growth, and number of buyers. According to the research, India's economic development over the last decade has been quite notable. Real GDP growth was approximately 8% annually over that period, driven by a combination of rising investment as well as consumption demand and greater productivity growth. The country's demographic dividend will be substantial over the next couple of decades. India will add about 110 million workers to its labor force over that time, which is more than the US, China, Russia, and Japan will add combined. Furthermore, purchasing ability of a country is depending on disposable income of a country. Disposable income of Indian consumers has increased significantly between 2001 to 2 and 2010 to 11. The shares of households with no income level has fallen over the years, while the share of those falling in higher income segments is on the rise. The third factor is firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. The competitiveness is depending upon how companies created, organized, and managed it, and the nature of domestic rivalry. India has significant competitive advantage in terms of low labor cost, availability of raw material, and many foreign retailers such as Raw, Navis, Walmart, and Gap are already sourcing their production from India with rising labor costs in developed countries. Many companies are moving their operation to developing countries such as India and China. Walmart has decided to set up a completely owned subsidiary in India for product sourcing. Each nation has their own organization goals, strategies, and ways of organizing business. National competitive advantage results from a good match between these choices and the sources of competitive advantage in a particular industry. The way of one firm's management and its competitive form is affected by national circumstance. No one managerial system is universally appropriate. Nations will tend to succeed in industries on the premise that the management practices and models of organization varied by the national environment are well suited to the industry sources of competitive advantage. Next, Jason will introduce the question 4 to us.
Okay, so now we're up to the fourth question, which is about what international strategy has IKEA adopted in India. So IKEA, as an international furniture retailer, applies several international strategies. International strategy is defined as the plans implemented by businesses to sell their products across different countries. IKEA implied the transnational strategy, which means that they apply the same basic competitive approach in all countries where they operate and sell much the same products everywhere, but also consider the local environment. For example, IKEA has smaller store structures compared to other countries in India. And also, on the other hand, they have a strong headquarter control as a global strategy. The benefit that IKEA being internationalized is that IKEA as a firm is able to access to critical materials for production such as developing countries like India and China. The way that IKEA and other Swedish retailers enter the international market are mostly through strategic alliances, which are firms that collaborate with IKEA that share risks and resources. facilitate development of core competencies, and involve fewer resources and costs. Okay, so in other words, strategic alliances offer relatively fast, cheap, and flexible growth at the expense of having to share some of the control. And lastly, at the time of entering the Indian market, IKEA faced several of challenges, and one of the biggest challenges is that IKEA required to meet 30% of furnishing markets in India. However, the government's policies and the local environments made a huge impact on IKEA's retail structure. Therefore, IKEA decided not to enter the market until its global model can be applied. After entering the market, the main challenge for IKEA is the availability of retail space and cost. IKEA's store in India were unlikely to be smaller than 350,000 square feet, which were smaller than other IKEA stores in other countries. Another barrier for IKEA is the local competition, as annual method states that IKEA need to work hard on getting shares in India as an ultra big box retailer, and the design of furniture need to be fit with the Indian climate and culture. Furthermore, the consumer behavior built up another issue that IKEA's DIY mode might suffer from local buyers' expectations. For example, an old man in India is expecting to have someone to help them to store the furniture, and that is actually against IKEA's original concepts. So, to summarize question 4, IKEA used a popular and comprehensive international strategy and entry mode to enter the Indian market amongst various regulatory obstacles. Okay, so now we'll hand back to Vanda to summarize the whole
To
presentation.
conclude, IKEA's venture into India was both a huge risk and an epic challenge, one that had a multitude of reasons for potential failure, such as government restrictions on international competitors and locals' preferences for small-scale manufacturers, but also huge potential for increased business, given India's large population. In our studies, we found that IKEA had many competitive advantages, including the DIY model, the adaptable ultra-modern design of their furniture, their eco-friendly policies, and their trademark in-store restaurants. In order to utilise these competitive advantages, IKEA have aimed to adopt a low-cost positioning strategy as the main focus of their Indian venture, while still maintaining some level of differentiation due to their unique brand and products. However, despite these advantages and a clear positioning strategy, they are not enough to ensure success in the Indian market, and some critics would say that India is simply not an attractive option for IKEA. In our research, we have found that this is not necessarily the case, as there has been a high level of consumer demand and economic growth in the area in recent times, and IKEA has proven so far successful in the Indian market. Finally, we have found that in entering the Indian market, IKEA adopted a transnational strategy and collaborated with other furniture manufacturers in the form of a strategic alliance. Overall, we can conclude that in setting up new stores in India, IKEA has risen above many barriers to achieve success in other international markets, continuing its remarkable run of sustained international success. The reference list now follows. Thank you for watching our presentation. We hope you enjoyed.